This week on Arizona Illustrated, we recognize the dedication and service of Southern Arizonans in our armed forces and remember those who pay the ultimate price so that we may remain free. Welcome to Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. This week, we pause to remember those who lost their lives in service to the United States of America. In June of 1954, a 12-man team of American military intelligence officers arrived in Vietnam, marking the first formal involvement by the United States in a regional conflict that would become known as the Vietnam War. When it ended, 21 years later, more than 3 million people had been killed, including over 58,000 Americans. This September, PBS will premiere The Vietnam War, a 10-part, 18-hour documentary film series directed by filmmakers Ken Burns and Lynn Novick. Arizona Public Media is creating a documentary as well, featuring stories from Arizonans who served in Vietnam. Throughout the summer now, we'll be sharing those stories with you. Here's a sneak preview.
I was born and raised here in Douglas, Arizona.
Nogales, Arizona.
I grew up here in Tucson.
I was born in Agua Prieta, Sonora, Mexico.
At the beginning, it was simply another guerrilla attack and a brave stand by a few Americans and 350 Montagnard strikers.
Vietnam was almost nightly in the news.
All I heard is, there was people getting drafted from the neighborhood.
I was drafted. I got a letter from Uncle Sam saying, "Greetings, you have been inducted into the Armed Forces of the United States."
Every male who was 18 had to go to their local draft board and sign up for the draft. I said, if you want to send me to jail, send me to jail. But I will not kill anybody.
I enlisted in April, maybe March of '67.
I had a pretty good idea I was going to end up in Vietnam. And so I decided I would enlist, go in the Marine Corps, where I could get the best training to survive Vietnam.
After I got my wings, I went to Luke and got my first assignment to F-100, so that was 6 months of training at Luke.
They had a big sign that they trained troops for Vietnam. And then the colonel, he says, "Look who's behind you, next to you, in front of you. Look around," he says. So we look around and says, "Some of you are not coming back. If you do come back, you come in the back."
I remember when I left for the war, I was really, really excited. And I turned around and looked at my wife, and she was crying. And I'm thinking to myself, my gosh, I'm going to be a fighter pilot in a real war, a war for men with hair on their chests. And there's missiles and MiGs, and our bases are rocketed, mortars at night, our bases are under attack. I mean, what's not to like about this? This is everything I've dreamed about.
There was no hesitation on my part. Helicopter pilots had a disproportionately higher number of casualties than other job descriptions in that period, but I was anxious and willing to serve.
As soon as you open up the doors, you can feel the heat, the humidity. I got there in March of '69, and you can just feel the humidity and the heat like that.
The Vietnamese, the Viet Cong and the NVA ruled the night. I mean, we had the technology for gunships and air support and medevacs and that, but that was their neighborhood, and they literally ruled the night. If we had an engagement during the day, it took hours, and it was usually hot and heavy, but we had very few engagements during the day. Most of it was at night.
You just bullets flying past you. And you duck and you're firing back and you try to to protect yourself, to fire back, and you know, there's so much going on, explosion.
Being a corpsman was purely volunteer at that point, so our numbers were not great. Well, first of all, I wanted to see what kind of wound they had, and you know, and I mean, I've stuck my fingers and thumbs in holes to stop the bleeding. You know, some of the worst were amputations.
We would get soldiers still with their, weapons, with hand grenades, all kinds of weaponry. The sergeant-at-arms had to go through and check the patient before they could start doing the triage.
We have the 2 patients on board. One has a gunshot wound in the leg, the other one has a gunshot wound in the back.
A Huey can hold 6 or 8 casualties. The most that we ever had come in on a Huey was 24 casualties, 3 of whom were hanging from the struts. The issue of those that die in your hands, you do your best as far as you can if you think there's salvageability, but there's a point at which it's too much and it overcomes you, and you just have to go on to the next issue, but it hurts.
I was in Firebase Birmingham when an officer, I believe was a lieutenant, came to me and he says, Specialist Tapia? I said, yes. You know, you're not a U.S. citizen? I said, I'm not a U.S. citizen. He said, you know you're not supposed to be here.
27th of July, 1965, first time a surface-to-air missile site was attacked. We had 28 aircraft on the attack. We lost 6 of them.
I got a lieutenant, or an officer, he come up said, and I said that I had a few days left. You know, I said my goodbyes, my hugs, and my tears, and my adios.
When I came back, it was a whole new level, like coming back to another world. A whole different kind of music. Everything changed, like turning a page. You know, so I just had to cope with it.
It really never struck me until coming back. I was trying to find the gate that I was going out of, and there were protesters in the airport, and I was spat on. So after that, I went into the ladies' room, and I took my bars off, and I took my cover off, and I just looked like I had a black coat on.
Hey, we're the best America had to offer. It's just they didn't stand behind us. And if I could have changed anything, it would have been that.
I don't feel that we need to ever have troops in combat unless we have the full support, trust, and confidence of the American people that provide them the tools and the understanding that we're there to win. Because losing doesn't feel good.
I would say it certainly impacted me forever. And every day I do something to serve Uncle Sam. And I'm proud to do it. And that's in memory of the guys who didn't make it.
Now an advanced look at the Vietnam War. Filmmakers Ken Burns and Lynn Novick tell us the epic story as it's never been told before. An immersive 360-degree narrative featuring testimony from nearly 100 witnesses, including many Americans who fought in the war and others who opposed it, as well as Vietnamese combatants and civilians from both the winning and losing sides.
There's been a lot done about this subject. Books, documentaries, feature films, novels. I mean, it's not like no one's ever tried. But it remains this kind of unfinished business in American history. In order to move on as a country at all, we have to really understand what happened. And we've never done that with Vietnam.
So it's time now. The decades have passed. We've always felt that in any kind of historical presentation, you've got to have 25 or 30 years perspective, the kind of triangulation that can take place from that passage of time.
I just stayed awake last night thinking about this thing. The more I think of it, I don't know what in the hell. It looks like me, we're getting into another Korea. It just worries the hell out of me. I don't see what we can ever hope to get out of there with once we're committed. I don't think it's worth fighting for, and I don't think we can get out. It's damned easy to get in war, but it's going to be awfully hard to ever extricate yourself.
In many ways, the Vietnam War was our second civil war, ripping the country apart in ways that hadn't taken place since the Civil War. And it's important now to go back and try to understand it.
We've tried to take a look at this from every side. So within the American experience, there's people who fought in the war. There's people who fought against the war. There was a tremendous conflict within the United States about the war. And then within Vietnam, there's the winning side. There's the losing side. They were our enemy and our ally. There's just so many different perspectives. We tried to bring them all together.
Just hope you can stay alive from day to day. Everybody just wants to go back home and go to school. That's about it.
You lost any friends?
Quite a few. We lost one the other day. Good buddy of mine. The whole thing stinks, really.
This film is not an answer, but a set of questions about what happened.
I am getting a little bit antsy because, first of all, we're losing light. Second of all, we are now outside of artillery range. We got to get out of there.
We have to move out of here because they're coming. And we don't have time.
I went to the Major Nyaw, his name was, and I said, Major, we have got to get out of here now.
We have extraordinary people looking for stills and archival footage and music and all the elements that make up our series. They are all really committed to finding material that is not only accurate and relevant, but they all have creative, artistic minds and eyes, and we're really good as a team.
There are literally 25,000 photographs that were pulled into our system. It's an enormous archivist job to keep track.
One of our interviewees, his name is Philip Brady, said, I will tell you my story if you can find this photo that ran in Perry Match. They found out that the source was AP, and they called AP, and AP said, yeah, it ran, but we don't have it anymore. We can't find it. We're so sorry. And I thought, well, can we actually go back into your archive, have us look at the folders? Because we feel like maybe if we could just look. And lo and behold, there was a folder called Advisors, and Phil Brady was a Marine advisor. We looked through and we found actually 3 photographs of Phil Brady, 2 of which had never been seen before, had never been published, and they're in the film.
What we have is kind of 2 parallel tracks in which research and the collection of material is ongoing, and we have writing in the other track, which is ongoing.
I can't believe I've been lucky enough to work with Jeff Ward for all these years. I can't imagine doing a film like this without him. I don't think it would actually be possible.
We don't want to stop. We just want to make it better.
It's a piece of metal etched with facts, a name, a blood type, sometimes an ID number or religious preference. But military identification tags, or dog tags, carry a lot of meaning, especially for one group of University of Arizona students and the people they hope to serve.
I didn't know if we were going to find anybody, and it was within 3 days we got an email from him. And he was excited, and he wanted it back, and so that was definitely the coolest part.
They said that they would love to have their dog tag back, so we pulled it from our collection.
For months, Anna Williams and Duan Copeland have been waiting for this moment, the day they get to ship out a dog tag to the veteran who lost it.
It's been 10 years since he was last contacted by the TOP program.
They're both veterans and University of Arizona students, as well as members of the UA Veterans Education and Transition Services, or VETS, program.
So I was an Army veteran. I served 4.5 years. I was an aviation operations specialist, so flight plans, flight records.
I had 12 years in the Army Reserves. 4 years of that were on active duty. I was a medical laboratory technician, mostly doing blood drives in support of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
In the military, service becomes a core value. And then all of a sudden you're back in the civilian world, and people don't really, as a society, we don't really think about service very much. So they go from this place where it's really, really important to me. So we find that one of the things that helps student veterans adjust to college and be involved in college life is to do these service projects. And so we have a number of them, one of which is the TOPS program.
So in addition to just searching for the new cases, I came up
TOP, or Tours of Peace, started in 1998 as a nonprofit dedicated to helping Vietnam veterans. One element of TOP's mission was returning dog tags and other personal effects to veterans and their families. When the nonprofit dissolved last year, it found a new home in the VETS program.
Doc and I, over the winter, did some emailing back and forth, and there's a...
That's how Anna, Duan, and 6 other student veterans became the stewards of more than 2,000 personal effects recovered in Vietnam in the decades since the Vietnam War.
Initially, it was just sorting out and figuring out what we had.
That involved us making sure all the files were accurate, going through and seeing if addresses were up to date, and then resending out letters so that we can return the dog tags to the veteran or their family members.
The people that had already been contacted had been more than 10 years. And so we wanted to just reach out again and, hopefully get somebody.
We've used Ancestry.com, we've used Google searches, Facebook.
And with the Ancestry, if you can't, whatever reason they don't want to do some kind of deal with us, then... So then the next step is to really the research part of the people who haven't been found yet, and that's going to be next semester's project.
The project's future is uncertain. There aren't many resources to keep it going, and it's hard to balance the detective work of reuniting lost dog tags with veterans or their families and the responsibilities of student life.
These are full-time students, so they have that. And if you know anything about the veteran community, most of them are married, they have children, so they have a lot of other things going on.
Instead of getting who they were.
Class schedule, work, family. So trying to get all of that in, and then, oh yeah, this project. That's definitely a struggle for me. That's the horse of a different color.
But the student veterans who've taken this on know better than most that these dog tags represent whole lives. People who were killed in the Vietnam War or whose lives were forever changed by it. That knowledge compels them to keep trying.
All the adult men that I grew up with were Vietnam veterans. My dad is, my step-uncle, and their friends were all Vietnam veterans. I feel a connection through that and kind of doing it for them. When they came home, they were treated horribly. My dad especially, he doesn't talk about it. They had a hard time with it, with how they were treated coming back, and it's not that they talked about it all the time, but you could tell that there was definitely hard feelings, and just letting them know that we were thankful for them and giving them the respect that they deserved.
These aren't just little pieces of metal. They're important, certainly important to me. About 40 years ago, I met with 50 Vietnam veterans. This is before PTSD was a thing. It was called delayed stress back then. And so I put on a workshop in Western Montana where I practiced at the time. And I explained to them what I knew. This thing's called delayed stress. You're not crazy. This is what happens to people that have gone through what you've gone through. So at the end of the day, they said, would you be willing to go to war with us and for us? And I mean, what the hell do you say to 50 guys that say that? So this project for me is fulfilling a promise. That's my passion about this. I honor my promise to those guys.
For more information about the Personal Effects Program at the UA Vet Center, please visit vets.arizona.edu/TOP. Veterans make up a disproportionately high percentage of the homeless population, but what happens when a homeless vet dies alone and on the street? The Missing in America Project seeks to locate, identify, and inter the unclaimed and forgotten remains of American veterans to ensure that they're buried with honor and respect and that they are never forgotten.
Okay, got a bike coming through.
As we ride today to give our brothers and sisters their final rest, I want you to keep in mind that their race is done. Our race is not. So let us be living testimonials to those we honor today.
All right, good morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Ed Torres. I'm the Southern Arizona Coordinator. I appreciate y'all coming out here, helping us out with taking these veterans home. The chapel have a non-denominational service. Just be mindful that there is a service going on in there, so keep the roar down to a minimum. We have 30 veterans. Have you got people to carry yet?
No. So what we'll do, folks, is I'll hand out gloves. We have 1 or 2 people that are going to be carried by family members, so that's going to be the only consideration. So please volunteer and step forward, and we're more than happy to help you participate. 7. This is about you. So be as involved as you want to be. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your service to our nation. Thank you. Missing in America Project was a creation of a vet who believed that no veteran should go without honorable burial. And our intent is always to locate, identify, and recover veterans. And so we approach mortuaries and funeral parlors and run through the lists that they have. The veterans interred today were individuals that some were rendered homeless, and we take responsibility for the cremains. It's a very emotional thing because I acknowledge the person who has sacrificed so much for me. But it goes even further back for me from my father's service to our military, and I feel that I'm closer to him each and every time I do this.
As we ride today, please have your angels spread their wings of protection and keep us all safe. Those of us on motors, those of us in cages. Amen. I'm gonna key off the hearse. You guys set the pace in the rear. Liz and I will set the pace in the front. Roger that.
It is sad that this mission is necessary at all. I would like to believe that the goal of the MIAP organizers, our fellow veterans, and citizens, that we eventually have no homeless veterans remains to bury, and no unclaimed veterans' remains to lay to rest.
This is part of the healing process of our organization. And regardless of what we've been involved in militarily wise, we have people who need healing, who need support. It's very important to give the servicemen and women of this nation reinforcement. We asked them to do a job, and they went and did it.
Please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved ones' honorable and faithful service.
I have come once again to honor and acknowledge the men and women who have honorably served our nation in a time of war and in a time of peace. Some not having an opportunity to be acknowledged, for they fell not upon the battlefields of this world, but within our neighborhoods and city streets, unidentified, marginalized, and forgotten, destined to fade away without a word, a tribute, or recognition of their respective service to our nation.
Luckett, James H., U.S. Army, Vietnam. Carter, John
Barlow, Ertmer, Salas,
Grijalva,
Luke,
Hall, Cabesco, Roderick, James A., Curtis T.
Luke, John M., USN, Vietnam.
Our job will probably be way past me. It'll be handed off to someone else. And I hope that they continue to recover vets no matter where they are. Simply the right thing to do is a statement that we use in our organization just to reinforce the fact of what we feel is to do this for our veterans because they deserve that recognition. Never forgotten, and it never will be. Not as long as I and other people are here to recognize them for their service.
The veterans honored here were interred at the Arizona Veterans Memorial Cemetery in Marana. For more information about the Missing in America Project, you can visit their website at www.miap.us. Thank you for joining us on Arizona Illustrated, and a reminder that you can watch all of our stories at azpm.org. We'll be taking a bit of a break over the next few weeks, then back in mid-June with all new stories. I'm Tom McNamara. See you then.